Well, good morning. It is a beautiful, crisp fall morning, and I love this time of year, especially getting to pull out the vests and the sweaters and the flannel. So I'm glad you're with me this morning. Going to be talking about conquering your goals and how to not only set them, but how to achieve them. So we're going to jump right in to conquering your goals. Excuse me. So obviously, the first thing we have to do is we have to set our goals. And so as we look at this goal setting process, we're going to look at a couple different things. Obviously, where are we going as an individual? What's my path? But also, we're going to be talking about from the standpoint of an organization or a team. It can be broken down into departments. It can be broken down into, as a whole, where are we going? But we're going to be talking about, how do we set our goals and how are we starting to really get to them and attain them so that we're making progress on them. One of the big things that I talk about with my clients in particular is what do you stand for? What is your mission? What are your values? So one thing I like to utilize is just the idea that our mission is kind of our foundation. So that's our big box, right? And so as we're talking about that, and we're talking about our values, which would then sit on top of it. Okay, so missions, why we started, what we do. Values is kind of our big pillar. Um, that really helps us identify what is it that we stand for. Why are we doing what we're doing? How are we trying to utilize what we're doing, the solution that we have to help the people around us, whether that's in our company, the people that we serve, our customers. How is that guiding us, right? So once we identify that and identify our why, then we can start to look at our vision. And so a vision is going to be taking us to where we want to go. Where do we want to take our mission? And that vision can include things like customers, who do we partner with, what clients are we going to try to pick up, even our vendors, right? So as we're looking through this lens of values and why we do what we do, why did we start what we started? That's going to help us get to our goal setting in the first place, right? Where are we taking this thing? So if we can identify those and we can start to see where do we want to take this, that's going to make sure that we stay on the right path and help us stay who we are no matter where we grow to. As we do that, then we can start to visualize our goals, right? So if I know that this is the way I want to do things, these are the values that I want to uphold, that's my measuring stick, then I can start to see what does it look like when I reach that? What are my clients getting out of it? What are my people in my organization getting out of it? And so as we start to visualize the goal, it's not just a matter of like getting to the mountaintop, if you will. It's also visualizing what's that path to the mountaintop look like? Who am I taking with me? What equipment am I taking along the way? What things am I picking up along the way? So as we start to visualize it through that lens of values, we start to really get a clearer picture of where we want to go, and it starts to solidify kind of our big picture, if you will. In doing so, in visualizing our goals and seeing how we're meeting the needs of customers and clients, but also utilizing our people the best that we can, we want to leverage the 80-20 rule, which is also known as the Pareto principle. But the idea is, and this applies to resources, this applies to people, the 80-20 rule basically is saying that the effort that we put in, the top 20% of the effort that we put in produces 80% of our output or our productivity, right? And then the bottom 80% of the effort we put gives us the last 20% of our output. And again, this applies to resources, this applies uh, to-do lists, right? As far as priorities, if I look at all the things I have to do for the day and I prioritize them, if I focus on the top 20% of those things, that's going to give me 80% productivity of my day. And then I can start to focus on those little things in that 80%, right? Same thing is for people, whether that's staff that's paid or volunteers. The top 20% of my people are my achievers and my doers. They're going to produce in general about 80% of my productivity. And then the rest of the 80% will fill in that last 20% of productivity. So with that in mind, when it comes to setting goals and how are we achieving things, we want to make sure that we're focusing on, as leaders or as managers, putting in our 80% of our effort into that top 20% of people so that we're increasing our productivity, because we know that they're going to be people that we get a lot more return from, or those resources or those priorities, we're going to get a lot more return from them. So that's the 80-20 rule. As we're setting goals and trying to forge that path towards those big goals, this is the way we want to go. So as we talked about at the beginning, there's long-term and there's short-term goals. And the long-term goals are our big goals. That's our vision. That's where we're wanting to be in the next 3 to 5 years. And that's one of the things that we want to keep ahead of us all the time. The short-term goals are more like milestones. Milestones are the things that we need to hit in order to hit our big goals, right? So if I sit down in January or whenever the beginning of your year is, and I say, here's where we need to be at the end of the year, the milestones or the short-term goals are going to be the ones that we say, we have to hit this at this time or this quarter, or by second quarter we're here, by third quarter we're here, so that we're constantly making those steps towards it. And I love this visual of the staircase, because if I think of my long-term goals as what is it at the top, what are each step of the way, what does that look like? I always use the example of when I was coaching softball. Our big goal when I was coaching collegiately was a national championship, right? And if I went down the stairs, I had to look at all of the steps that I had to get or accomplish to get there. So there was like a regional championship, a conference championship, right? Winning so many games in the regular season. There was all these things, all these little steps that we could mark off along the way, and each step took me closer to that overall goal. Thinking long term. Sometimes, actually, for some people, thinking long term, thinking big picture is a lot easier because that's our bent, that's our persona, right? So two of my Clifton Strengths Finders, the top 5 are strategic and futuristic. So for me, thinking long term, thinking what is this going to look like? What is it that we want to accomplish in the next few years? This is just naturally where my mind wants to go. So thinking long term and looking at the, if you will, the 10,000 foot view is just kind of up my alley. For some people, they get very caught up and focused on the details, and that's okay. We just need to be able to balance the two of them. Sometimes details aren't my strong suit because I am so big picture minded, but we have to be able to look at the big picture and then think of the short term. One of my favorite ways of hearing this is we need to date the plan, but be married to the goal, right? So along the way, if we have to change things, that's fine, but we need to be committed to that long-term goals. What direction am I going with, like my career or as an organization? What direction are we going in order to grow, to continue to meet the needs of our customers and our people? So in the short term, then we start to look at if long term is 3 to 5 years or out or longer, then the short term goals and objectives are going to be, what do I need to get done this week or this month or this quarter, all the way up to those 3 years to accomplish that big goal. One great resource is a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. He's got a whole series, and he's got a framework called the EOS system that is very good at doing this. So it takes whatever your goals are at like the 10-month or the 10-year mark, a 7-year, a 3-year, and a 1-year, and it looks at where do I want to be in those time frames, and then it breaks it down into what do I need to accomplish this quarter to reach my 1-year, and then it even breaks it down into how do I focus on the obstacles or the needs of this particular week. So it's just a very good framework to keep things moving forward and building that momentum with your team or as an individual. So I really suggest you check him out. Gino Wickman, the book is called Traction. But he just really breaks down these short-term objectives and he makes it so that we constantly have accountability moving forward into these things. Smart planning, SMART goals. These are something that have been around for a while, but I just like to break them down because I do feel like there could be holes if they're not utilized properly, right? So the idea of a SMART goal is to really just make sure that we're moving in the right direction. And so let's break this down. The S stands for specific, right? So There's a huge difference, and I'm going to use the health goals. There's a huge difference between saying I want to be healthier or I want to lose some weight and I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to be at this weight, right? It's specific. I can look at it and know exactly what I'm talking about. If it's more broad and general, it's going to be a lot harder to hit it, right? The old saying, aim small, miss small. So if I'm specific, even if I miss it a little bit, but I'm specific about it, I'm gonna be a lot closer to the goal, right? So we need to be specific in our goal setting, whatever that is along the way. Measurable. The only thing about being measurable is we have to be able to put a number to it, right? So that can be as simple as if I have a list of things, I can either check it off and say it's done, or it's still not checked off, so I still need to accomplish that. Or it can be a percentage of something. It can be an actual number, right? If I want to grow, let's say I want to grow my team, I want to grow it exponentially. Maybe I do put a percentage to it. If I want to grow to a specific number, maybe my team's at 5 and I want to be at 7 by the end of the year. That's specific, right? And it's measurable. So we put a number to it, whatever that means in your particular situation, right? So it's specific, we're measurable, and then it's achievable. Now, again, here's where I think some people can be a little too lax, if you will, in their goal setting. Because if it's achievable, then maybe I set the same goal that I've already achieved. That's not helping me grow, right? So let's do, as a personal trainer, one of my goals was to have so many clients. And let's say last month I had 15 clients, right? And then this month I set my goal as I want to have 15 clients. I've already achieved that. So all I'm doing is I'm maintaining and I'm not growing. So it's not taking me towards the long-term goals. It's only maintaining what I already have. So it's kind of that idea of even though it's achievable and I know that I've achieved it, it's not helping me grow. So this is where like year over year growth happens, right? I hit this much last year. I want to have this much growth this year. I know it's achievable because I've achieved this much this previous year, but now I'm moving towards something that I need to grow to. And that's what the idea of achievability comes in when it comes to SMART goals. So again, we've been specific. We're measurable. We're putting a number to it. We're we're finding an achievable goal. It's something that I know that I can hit, but I need to grow to get to it. And then I need to have something that's relevant. It's got to be something that stays in line with whatever our big goals are, whatever our long-term goals are. I just need to make sure that it's taking me up that staircase that we talked about, right? Um, if I've got a goal to grow my business and I've got a goal of so many new clients or so much revenue this year, then I need to be able to set goals that help me attain that, right? Me setting a goal of upping my golf game isn't necessarily relevant to me building my business. I mean, I know that's a silly example, and I'm not a golfer, but that's what we're trying to get at, right? It's got to be in that line. It's got to be on that staircase because it might be a great idea, but is it relevant to where I'm heading, right? Because a lot of us can have a lot of great ideas, but if those ideas are taking off course, then it's not really helping us. And then finally, we have to have a timestamp to it. We have to set a time, set our own um, deadline as to when these goals are going to be achieved. Now, depending on the size of the goal or the milestone, as we're smart planning out, this could be something that could be done within the next week. It could be something that we just need to accomplish within the next quarter. It could be something that we, do within the next 6 months. So there's a lot of different things that go into this, but what we're doing is we're just setting accountability for ourselves within that time frame, right? So SMART goals are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, and that I need to grow to be able to achieve them. I have to push to achieve them. They're relevant. They're keeping me on the right path. They're keep taking me up the staircase to my long-term goals, and they're timely in that I'm just setting a deadline for them. So not only does it help me stay accountable, other people can see that and help keep me accountable to it. So by doing that and setting our goals, our SMART goals, then we start to create visibility. Um, this also will help us stay motivated to achieving our goals. It'll help bring people along because now we're starting to share that, right? So whether it's me as an individual saying, you know what, I would really like your accountability in this. here's why I'd like to grow. Or it's a team and I'm saying, you know what, this is the direction that we've decided to go to as far as being a team, where the company is going, where the organization is going. We want to get that out in front of people so that they can also start to buy into it, because the more people can see it and they can see their part in it, the more they're going to buy into fulfilling that part, fulfilling their strengths within that, as opposed to just coming and doing their job because maybe they enjoy it, maybe they bought into the mission, but if they don't see the vision, we might start to lose people. And that's, I think, what we're seeing a lot of today with, higher turnover rates and things like that. So we want to make sure that as we build a culture based off of our core values, we're also creating this visibility and the vision of where are we going, right? And this will also lead to getting in a good rhythm. What is it? What does our day to day look like, right? What are our standard processes that we have to do? Now, here's the thing. I love the idea of the rule of five. So the rule of five is basically identifying what are the 5 things that I need to do every single day to keep me moving forward, right? Now, this will build into consistency, and these might not be the funnest things in the world, but it comes down to discipline, right? So when it comes to the rule of five, I love the example of, maybe I've got a tree in the back that I need to cut down or I want out of there, but I don't have a chainsaw, but I do have an axe. So I could either schedule a day or a weekend to go and just, expend my energy and cut that tree down, or I could go out there and take 5 swings a day, and eventually that tree is going to come down. And it doesn't matter whether it's a sapling and it's small, or it's 50 years old, or it's 100 years old. Eventually, those 5 swings, just the consistency of that, are going to cut into that tree and eventually topple it over. That's the idea of like, what rhythm are you using? What processes do you have? Now, my processes might be different from my partner's process or my staff's process, because what I have to do or the things that I'm capable of are different from each of my people, right? What are their strengths? What are the things that they need to focus on? I mean, if I've got someone who's working front desk, that's going to be way different than the person who's my CFO, right? Or my accountant, or my salesperson. Those 5 things are different. Now, these are things that we have to do every day, but they're not things that take all day. I just like to be clear on that. So what's your rhythm again? Is your rhythm, I get to the office or I get to my workspace and I make my phone calls, do my emails, how do I start my day? Who am I reaching out to? What process am I doing to make sure that my people are doing what they're doing? All these things. So again, your rhythm can look different, but utilizing the rule of five can really help us get into this rhythm, because some of these things might take 5 minutes, some of them might take 3 hours, but we're doing them every single day. And as we're building our rhythm, we want to make sure that these things that we're going towards align with our goals, right? So again, the rule of five is, this is what I need to do on the daily as far as discipline to align with my goals as far as big picture goals, and then my short-term goals, which are going to continue to walk me up that staircase towards where I want to get to, right? So that's the whole idea of identifying values, being able to talk about those values on the daily, and keeping those goals in front of people, because here's where we're going, here's what needs to get done this week, and just kind of moving forward through each one of those steps. And again, like I said earlier, consistency pays off. No matter what it is, the more consistent I am, the more disciplined I am about stuff, the more things are going to get done, the more momentum we're going to build. I think back to, and this is a not work related example, but I think back to when I had my back surgery, my lower back surgery. I was out of work for 6 full weeks, and then another 2 weeks I just went back part time. But what happened was, my goal was to walk as far as I could every single day in my recovery. So day one was literally walking across the hall or across the room. That's all I could do because of the pain, because of the recovery, all this stuff. Day two, I was able to walk down the hall, right? By week 6, I was walking 3 to 5 miles a day. And it was just that consistent putting my steps in, right? Letting the healing process happen and moving forward that got me to, a block, and then a mile, and then 2 miles, and then 3 miles. And then eventually, like I said, 3 to 4 miles a day, or 3 to 5 miles a day. And so that consistency pays off. So what is it that we need to do in our department, in our business, in our organization, that we need to be consistent at so that we continue to move forward, right? The biggest thing is I've been guilty of this as well. As we move forward and we are in the process or on the track, we get to a certain milestone, not to our big goals, not to our long-term goals, but to a certain milestone. We start to say, you know what, like we're here now, we can start to do other things. But then we start to lose momentum because those things that we did to get there, the consistent part that would have paid off in the long run, we stop doing those things. So we need to continue to move forward with that rule of five and just be consistent with it. So, what does a goal roadmap look like, right? How can we measure these things? And there's different ways of doing this. One way that a lot of companies use would be charts. That way we can look at different departments, who's doing what, or maybe we're remote, because that's a very common thing nowadays with companies. Maybe we're, looking at um, pie charts, right? Or whatever kind of charts you use to identify who's accomplishing what. Maybe it's a sales team, and you're looking at who's got each sales and how are we adding that up to our overall goal of sales for the year. But your goal roadmap is basically a way to look at what have we accomplished, what are we accomplishing now, and how are we continuing to move forward towards that overall goal, right? Again, like I said, that can be maybe like a pie chart or things like that. But it's also letting people see what part are you playing in this in our success towards our goals. Everybody's role is different. Like I said, maybe you have a salesperson, you have an accounting person, you have a receptionist person, right? You've got assistant, right? But showing them how they fit into the big picture, how they fit into their piece of the pie can help continue that buy-in, but also continue to move everybody forward and gain momentum. So the more momentum we get, the easier it is to overcome obstacles and to, work together to get through conversations, things like that. Um, some areas that we can look at, right, as far as breaking this down, what does it look like? We can have an area of like learning and growing for strategy, for keeping our perspective, right? Like who is looking at the customer satisfaction, who's looking at the employee skills and the education that they're continuing to get. um, how are we dealing with or trying to slow down employee turnover, right? How are we trying to retain our people? We can also look at like the customer perspective. These are just pieces of this mapping that we can do as far as like making sure that we're on this right track. But how about the customer perspective? Um, again, how satisfied are our customers in general? How long are we keeping our customers, right? Are we having a high retention rate? And then another thing would be brand strength, like how recognizable is our brand or our company in the community? A couple of other areas that we can look at. Sometimes we can look at, the financial perspective. This is big for obviously most companies and organizations. What does our revenue look like this year compared to last year or compared to the last 3 years? Um, where are our expenses? Are they going up? Are they staying the same? And where's our net income, right? Just these are just ideas of what we could look at from a financial perspective, especially depending on what kind of business you're running or what kind of organization you're in charge of. Or if it's just personal even. And then the inside, the internal process perspective of if you have a product, what's your inventory look like? How do you maintain that and make sure the inventories are correct? What's our ordering process look like? Not only for us getting our um, product, but also how do we put that together and make sure that it gets to our customer the right way? And then quality control, right? Not only control of the quality of the product itself, but quality control even of like our relationships that we're continuing to build and maintain with our customers and with our clients and with our people. So this all leads to just the milestones we talked about. And like I said, I really enjoy and I use it a lot personally in my business. I help my brother with his business using the same thing, the EOS system, which is from Gino Wickman. The book Traction is a great resource. If you go online, I believe it's called EOS online or EOSworldwide.com. They have a bunch of complimentary and free resources that you can use that really build this framework for you, is making sure you're measuring your goals with weekly milestones. They have what he calls your rocks, which is like your quarterly goals. So your weeklies, make sure that you're on track to hit your quarterlies, and then your quarterlies are set so that you're on track to hit your yearlies, and then your yearlies should be helping you stay on track to hit like that big goal, which is the next, 3 to 5 years, like we talked about. So there's other frameworks out there. I just find this one is very simple, and it's very good at keeping that accountability and moving forward. So uh, that's just my suggestion. But I've seen a lot of good come from it, just for myself and for my brother and his business as well. Um, as we're doing that, as we're looking at milestones, we also need to stay open to change. And once again, this can come back to personality. So me, on the DISC assessment, as far as personality and communication, me being higher on the D side, I'm the type of person, I'm just like, you know what, let's move, let's go in this direction, let's head towards it. And if we have to change direction, we have to pivot, I'm okay with that, because that's my personality. As long as we're moving towards our goal, and I still see the direction I need to go, I can deal with that. Some people it's a little bit harder because we get set in our ways, and we get set with here's the plan to get to this goal, and unfortunately this plan isn't necessarily working, and maybe I spend a little more time putting the steps into that plan, helping build that procedure. Sometimes that's a little bit harder for people. So staying open to change is really good, because we can continue to make progress and not get caught up with, well, I have to stick with this procedure. I have to stick with this way of doing it, right? There's different ways of doing it. And if we can be open to change and open to new ways, or even saying, you know what, this way got us to this point, now we have to pivot and go a different way to get to our goal, so be it. But being open to change will help us continue to make progress up the staircase, but it might not necessarily be the exact same way we started, right? And with that, this is also hard for some people and easier for others. But embracing your failures. What is your outlook on failure? What is your team's outlook on failure? Do you encourage people to take risks that might uh, lead to failure so that we can learn, or is it, well, when we fail, there's some type of reprimand, right? I mean, there's both kinds of businesses out there, both kinds of organizations out there. But how are you dealing with failures? Are you embracing them, because within every failure there's an opportunity to learn from our mistakes, or are you caught up in, oh my gosh, I failed, and now I can't do this and this, right? If we can utilize failures as springboards forward, it's going to help us continue towards those long-term goals, because uh, a lot of people have thought in the past that there's a dichotomy, right? On one side you have success, on one side you have failure, but in reality, the failures are stepping stones to the successes. And so any truly successful person, if you talk to them and they're honest with you, they have failures along the way. And so the more that we can embrace our failures and say, here's how we're going to learn from it, evaluating them and moving forward with those lessons, that will help us, first of all, avoid those same failure in the future, but also be able to deal with other failures in a more constructive way in the future as well. So we continue to move forward. So after we've worked through our failures and we've learned from them and seen the opportunities to grow from them, remember to celebrate your successes. I'm not gonna lie, this is an area that I've struggled with, not because I haven't had success, but just because I've always been very um, driven. I've always been very journey oriented, or duty oriented, and so it's hard for me to slow down and get out of that duty mindset and be like, you know what, like I'm gonna celebrate this milestone that we just hit, because we've never hit this before. Whatever that is, it's maybe it's best month ever, or maybe it's we just gained a new partner, or I picked up a good new client, or maybe another success that we might have is we've built our team and we have the key people now that we need to really drive towards that big goal that we have, right? So to be able to slow down and just for a second say, you know what, we've worked hard, we've succeeded in what we've set out to do as far as like one of these milestones. We need to stop and say, let's celebrate this, however that is. Maybe, you know, we go out to a dinner or a lunch, or we just go do something fun that's away from work, but celebrating those successes in life. And above all, make sure that you're also celebrating yourself, right? Maybe whether that's work related or personal related, just make sure you're stopping and celebrating, because the more we celebrate, the more we, again, get buy-in from our people, the easier it is to continue to move forward. And if we know that we're going to celebrate our successes and the hard work that we've put in, then we're going to continue to work hard to achieve more successes. So celebrate. Make sure that you're identifying the people that have helped you get there. Whether that's a team or an individual, or even if it's people outside your organization, like celebrate with them and let them know that you are moving forward and that the success is meaningful not only to you, but it's important because they've helped you as well. So anyway, with all of that being said, sorry about that. Now you've got some tools to go, you know, look at your goals, identify your values. How are you seeing your vision and your long-term goals through your values of your organization or your personal values? And so how can you apply those to your short-term goals so that we can start to make progress, right? How, and within that, we can start to be more consistent in our daily efforts so that we continue to walk up that staircase towards those big goals. And once we get there, we can do it again and reassess how we got here and start to look forward. So I always appreciate those of you who listen, whether that you're with me live or you listen to this later. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, especially the values and how do we use those values? How do we keep them in front of us so that we are making progress? So if you have questions, you can reach me at Elijah at CoachElijah.com, or you can reach out to me on Facebook. Those are the two best ways to get a hold of me. And maybe we just have a sit down and have a free consult of like, how could Rising Tide help you as an individual, you as an organization, or even you as a business owner, right? How can we start to do these things, put them into play, set that framework up to make sure that we're continuing to move forward on these things, on our goals, on our processes, on our rule of five, so that we can continue to grow, continue to move forward, and not get stagnant and not get stuck in our ways. I would love to help you with that and show you some of the things that we can implement to apply these things that we've talked about. So if you have questions or would just like more information, please reach out. And thank you again for joining me this morning. This is one of my greatest joys is putting these together for you, presenting them, and for myself, like this is something that I'm growing in, right? So these monthly webinars are something that are one of my milestones that help continue to grow me as a person and as a business. So I hope you have a great day and a great rest of your week, and we will see you again next month. Thank you.